€7.55. That's how much I spent on groceries this week. Yes, you heard me correctly, €7.55. And that means this is the cheapest and possibly also the most delicious week we've had yet. Welcome to the third week of living on €50 a month. From last week, we have left about 600 grams of dried white beans, 2 glasses of cooked chickpeas, and 8 cloves of garlic. From week 1 of the challenge, we still have a whole bag of oats and a puff pastry, which is already out of date, but since I kept it in the freezer and it's frozen solid, that is not a problem. We'll still use it. I knew that I wanted to cook something with aubergines, so I went to Netto to get 2 aubergines for 89 cents a piece. And while I was there, I also grabbed some rice and some onions. Next up was Edeka, where I bought some garlic. I know I still had garlic at home, but you can never have too much garlic, at least when I cook, so I grabbed 1 bulb of garlic there. I also got these mini cherry tomatoes, which were just €1, an unbelievable price at the moment. And I also got a liter of oat milk for 95 cents and some flour for 59 cents. And then I had to show you something because some of you might still remember the pineapple cutting machine.
Unbelievable. They have exchanged the pineapple machine with an orange juice machine. I don't know if the pineapple machine will make a comeback. We will see. And we are back at DM, and I will try to get some tomato paste and passata with my remaining payback points. Tomato paste, 95 cents, and the passata, €1.05. Excellent. Vegan pesto rosso for $1.85. I'm kind of torn about this. I will tell you when we're back home. Ich würde das gerne mit Payback-Punkten bezahlen.
€2. Dann Payback-Karte bitte einscannen.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is everything, and I mean really everything, I bought for this week. We have 750 grams of onions, organic, 2 aubergines or eggplants, and a kilogram of rice, which I bought at Netto. Then you saw me getting the passata and the tomato paste at DM with my payback points for free. And then I bought the oat milk, the flour, the tomatoes, and the garlic at Edeka. And all of that came to €7.55. Now, I paid €3.19 at Edeka. I paid originally €5.56 at Netto until I realized they had charged me too much money for the aubergines, about €1.20 too much, which means I got €1.20 back in cash. So I paid €4.36 at Netto, and I paid nothing, as you can see here, at DM, which means €3.19 plus €4.36. We paid €7.55. Ladies and gentlemen, if this works out the way I planned it, this will be the most delicious and the cheapest week of the challenge so far. Now, with everything we have here, with everything we have left from last week, and a few pantry items, we will now cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a whole week. Do you think we can do that? I think we can do that. Huzzah! In terms of dry goods from the pantry, all we have left is a little bit of red lentils. We have used up the rice and also all of the chickpeas. But there is something else that I want to use from the pantry this week, and that is this pesto. Usually I wouldn't call this a pantry item because I don't keep pesto in the pantry at all times. But I found this because it's still left from New Year's Eve. On New Year's Eve, we did something that most Germans do. We had raclette, which is basically a bunch of people sitting around a little barbecue and eating for 4 or 5 hours. For this raclette, I bought different sauces, like a barbecue sauce and a sweet chili sauce, but I also bought this pesto because I thought we might use it, but we did not. And I know that this could be seen as breaking the laws of the challenge, but it really was in my pantry. I did not buy it for this week, so I will use it. If you think that is unfair, you can add another €2 to the total. Then we have spent €9.55 this week, but I don't see any point in buying a new glass of pesto if I have this already here. First things first, we're gonna make some bread because I terribly missed the bread last week and I'm not gonna make the same mistake twice. I bought the flour and the oat milk specifically for the bread, and we will need a loaf pan, and I will use the Thermomix to make the dough. As always, you don't need the Thermomix, but if you have it, it just makes it easier. We will use a recipe on the Thermomix, but we will tweak it a little bit because it uses up too much flour. As you can see here, it says you need 750 grams of flour, and I need some of the flour for something else, so we're gonna just use 500 grams of the flour. And that means we also have to adjust the liquid. You can see there at the bottom that it says 250 grams of milk and 200 grams of water, and we will just skip the water and just use the oat milk. Okay, so we'll use 500 grams of flour, 2 teaspoons of salt, yeast, 50 grams of sunflower seed oil, 250 grams of the oat milk, and that is it. Now, before you say, wait, you didn't buy any yeast or sunflower seed oil, just a second. If you've been following me for a while, you know that this drawer is part of my pantry. I keep all of my spices in here and some dry goods, like for example, brown sugar. Here we have some baking goods, like for example, yeast. I still have 2 sachets, and these are still from some other budget challenges. Then we also have the vanilla sugar, for example, baking powder. Oh, there's some pudding here. And also, for example, cacao. So this is all stuff that is just lying around here in this drawer. So of course I'm going to use it. So we will use the yeast from here. And up here is where our oils and the rest of my spices live. And if you see this bottle of sunflower seed oil, yes, I also bought this for, I think, the last budget challenge. So sunflower seed is in the house as well. What we will do first is oil the loaf pan and put it aside. Then we will add the flour, the salt, the yeast, the oil and the oat milk to the Thermomix, and the Thermomix will knead it for about 3 minutes. Then we will take the dough and knead it in a little bit of flour and then put it into the loaf pan. We will then let it rise for about an hour, and then we will bake it in the oven at 220 degrees Celsius, which is around 420 degrees Fahrenheit, for 25 to 30 minutes. And in case it gets a little bit too dark at the top, you can cover it up with a little bit of aluminium foil. And here is the beautiful bread right out of the oven. I already tasted it. As you can see, it tastes very, very, very good, and I am one happy German. Next, we are going to make some marble cake, because that could be a very easy and cheap breakfast or a snack for the afternoon. For that, we only need a few ingredients. About 350 grams of flour, 350 grams of oat milk, 220 grams of sugar, 160 milliliters of a neutral oil, like sunflower seed oil. We also need some baking powder, some vanilla sugar, and some cacao. If you have a hand mixer, I would suggest that you first mix all of the dry ingredients and then add the liquid ingredients and mix that into a nice dough. Since I have the Thermomix, I will just add everything to the Thermomix and mix it until it is well combined. Then we will take half of the dough and put it into an oiled loaf pan. The rest of the dough we will mix with the cacao powder and a little bit more of oat milk, and then we will add the start dough onto the white dough. Then you will take a fork and make some nice patterns into the dough. If I had to explain it, I would say you sort of make circles, sideways circles with the fork through the dough, but you see what I do here on the video, so you do that. Then we will bake that in the oven at 180 degrees Celsius or around 350 degrees Fahrenheit for around 45 to 50 minutes, or until a toothpick comes out clean. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the cake. It's beautiful. I had it in the oven for 50 minutes, actually, a little bit longer than I thought it needed, and it is really, really good. You can see the pattern that I made here, also right here. And I will eat this either for breakfast, if I want breakfast in the morning, or I will have it as a snack in the afternoon. The recipe for the roasted aubergines and butter beans in chili pesto I found through a video of Click for Taz. If you don't know Taz, you should definitely check her out. She is a wonderful human being and has quite a big YouTube channel. Anyways, in one of her videos, she cooks these aubergines and butter beans, and she got the recipe from the website of Ottolenghi. Apparently, Ottolenghi is a chain of Italian restaurants in London, and they share some of their recipes on their website. So I will make sure to leave a link to the recipe in the description box below. For this recipe, we need aubergines or eggplants, butter beans, onions, garlic, cherry tomatoes, and a jar of red pesto. The recipe specifies that it's a pesto with chili peppers, which I don't have, so I will add a little bit of chili powder to the red pesto. And then we will serve this over rice. As you can see, I cooked up some of the white beans. I took 400 grams and soaked them overnight and then cooked them in some water with a little bit of salt and baking powder. 400 grams of dried white beans give you about 800 grams of cooked beans, and I took half of that and put it in the fridge because we will use it for another recipe. So for this recipe, we have about 400 grams of cooked beans. First, we will peel the onions and the garlic and wash the aubergines and the tomatoes. Then we will cut the onions and the aubergines into wedges, but we will leave the garlic cloves whole. We will preheat the oven to 230 degrees Celsius, which is around 450 degrees Fahrenheit. Then we will add the garlic cloves, the onions, the aubergine, about 60 milliliters of olive oil, and salt and pepper to an oven-safe dish. We will mix them well and then roast it in the oven for 20 minutes or until the aubergines are golden and softened. Then we will mix another 60 milliliters of olive oil with the beans, the pesto, the tomatoes, and more salt and a little bit of chili powder. We will put that on top of the aubergines, and then we will roast everything for another 15 minutes or until some of the beans are slightly charred in places. And then we will serve that over the white rice.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, are the beans and the aubergines right out of the oven. And yes, I'm already having seconds because this is good. I have not cooked much with aubergines, to be honest. It's kind of not really a vegetable that I go for, but in this, it's really, really good. I'd say it's about 5 to 6 servings with the rice, of course, and it is really delicious. So thank you, Taz, for recommending this recipe.
With the rest of the beans, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to make a quiche, and I have absolutely no idea how it will turn out because we're going to wing it. We will use the puff pastry, the rest of the beans, about 400 grams, the tomato paste, about 4 onions, and as much garlic as we like. Probably 5, 6, 7, 8 cloves, we will see. First of all, we will take a tart or quiche pan, oil it, and put the puff pastry into it. We will stab it with a fork and then add some breadcrumbs to the bottom to make sure it won't get soggy. Then we will peel and dice up the onions and the garlic and heat a little bit of oil in a pan. Then we will add the onions and saute them for a few minutes, add the garlic, saute them as well, and then we will add most of the tomato paste, save maybe a tablespoon or so. We will let that saute as well for a few minutes until the tomato paste is sort of a brownish color. Don't let it burn, as always, but let it get some color because that makes a lot of taste. Then we will add salt and pepper and as much of the Italian herbs as you like, or until it tastes good to you. Then we will transfer the beans and the onion, garlic and tomato paste mixture to the Thermomix or another food processor of your choice, and we will blitz it up until it is a smooth paste. Then we will put all of that into the quiche pan and smooth it out with a spoon. And then I probably will try to make some kind of a pattern on top with the remaining tomato paste, and we will see how that turns out. And then we will bake this in the oven at 200 degrees Celsius, which is around 400 degrees Fahrenheit, for 40 to 45 minutes or until the top is golden brown. And then we can enjoy.
And this is the quiche out of the oven. I did let it cool for about 10 to 15 minutes so that it could settle. I think it kind of looks like a rose from the top, doesn't it? Yeah, and now I'm gonna cut into it and see if it's all done. I hope so. Otherwise, we have to put it back into the oven. Nope. I had to stick it back into the oven for another 10 minutes because the bottom was not yet done. And this is why it got a little bit dark at the top, but it tastes really good. I can't believe this is actually my own recipe. I made this up and it tastes good. Maybe I shouldn't put tomato paste on it next time. But, other than that, I call this a win. Nom nom nom.
One of the easiest and cheapest budget meals I have ever cooked is the chickpea and rice tortilla soup created by Pickup Limes. For that, we only need a very few basic pantry ingredients: rice, chickpeas, passata, a sort of taco or burrito seasoning, onions, garlic, and bouillon cubes. First of all, we will peel and chop up the onions and the garlic and saute them in a little bit of oil in a big pot. After 3 or 4 minutes, we will add the tomatoes or the passata and 2 tablespoons of the burrito or taco seasoning. We will let that cook for another minute or so, and then we will add all of the other ingredients. About 400 grams of cooked chickpeas, about 150 grams of dry rice, and also salt and pepper and 1.5 liters of veggie broth. And then we will just have to cook it for 15 to 20 minutes or until the rice is done. And that's it. It's delicious, it's easy, it's cheap. As I said, one of the best budget meals you can cook.
And here, ladies and gentlemen, we have the finished product. As you can see, it is a lot. I've made this many times before. So from experience, I know this is about 6 servings. I think Pickup Limes says on her website it's 4, but honestly, look at that. For me, it is 6. It's really filling because of the chickpeas and the rice, and it tastes really good. It has a bit of a kick to it, so if you don't like it spicy, you should maybe be careful with the taco or burrito seasoning, but I like it. I've come to like a little bit of spice in my life. And now, please excuse me while I enjoy my soup. Bye-bye.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, already brings us to the end of this video. A few notes, as always. First of all, the aubergine and butter beans were delicious. That will definitely be cooked again in this household. Maybe next time I'll try to make the pesto myself with dry tomatoes in oil. I have a few ideas, but as it is, it was delicious. Then the quiche was also really good. The taste was really, really good, but I burned the tomato paste at the top. You saw that. So I think what I would do next time is buy another little bag of cherry tomatoes, cut them in half, and then place them on the top of the quiche. I think that would be very nice. But if you don't have the money for the extra tomatoes, just put the quiche into the oven for like half an hour and then add the tomato paste towards the end, and then it won't burn. Because I think personally the pattern on top looked nice. It looked a bit like a rose. So you could do that as well. But the way I did it was not ideal, but we're learning. We're learning. But I adjusted the recipe in the description box below, so, you have the better version. The chickpea and rice soup, as always, was a win. Delicious, great. I wish I could have eaten it with the bread, but by the time I cooked the soup, the bread was already gone. It was so good. Very, very simple, very delicious. I should make this bread more often, definitely. And the marble cake, I think, was also a win. You know that I don't really often eat breakfast, so for me, having the option to eat it in the morning or as a snack in the afternoon was perfect. And can you believe that it was only 7.55 euros? Like, I was surprised myself. And that means that we have 14.50 euros or something left for the last week. We will have to buy some staple things, like I used up the sunflower seed oil, so we will have to buy that. But that is fine. I think it will be okay. So yeah. I'm kind of looking forward to week 4, and I hope you do too. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave me one of these, or maybe comment, or subscribe to my channel, or hype on the app. Whatever you can do, I really, really appreciate it. Thank you again, and I'll see you in week 4. Bye-bye.